So maybe you've heard that Bill Gates is a huge owner of raw farmland across the United States. And this video is not about his motivations or some of the theories out there, but rather, if he owns so much land as a wealthy, successful person, is that something that you or I, a non-billionaire investor, should you consider buying and owning raw land? I actually own some here in Florida, and I'm going to talk to you about the pros and the cons, the things I learned along the way. We'll go through all those details right now together. Okay, welcome back to Joshua Talks Money. I'm so glad you found this channel. Here is where I share the things I've learned and the things I'm still learning about money right here every single week. I would love for you to consider hitting the subscribe button, hitting this like button on the video. It helps me tremendously. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so is raw land a good investment? And right off the bat, the consensus would probably say that no, it isn't. And you can read this online. There's lots of articles of why raw land is not a great investment for the average investor. Raw land can cost you a lot of money up front, and it doesn't necessarily have the market or the appreciation that a traditional home or physical real estate investment would have. So why would people want to invest in raw land? I think one can be that you plan to build a home on a piece of property in the future. So you're securing that space, that property, and you have plans to develop it for your own home or personal use down the road. The other could be the agriculture side, where you want to have maybe a farm business. Maybe you want to raise animals and livestock. And so you want to purchase some property where you can do that and all the benefits that come with that. And some people just want to own raw land as a piece of the earth. It's theirs. They're not making any more of it, and they could do and shape that place to be what they want. You know, when I think about all the people who've migrated down from northern states like New Jersey and New York and maybe California out west here to Florida, where I am, I think about how there's very little land ownership in those metropolitan areas. It's ridiculously expensive. So these people are used to smaller homes, smaller apartments. And I actually got to thinking, let's go on Zillow and look at raw land around Manhattan. And I found a parcel, if you would call it that, about a third of an acre, listed for just about $9 million. So this comes out to $25 million per acre. And so if you compare that to Tampa, now I read Tampa was about I think the third most popular destination for people relocating. Well, a third of an acre in Tampa here, you can see is about $300K. So it's just significantly different. So let's just talk about the cost associated with purchasing raw land. So it's not necessarily like investing and buying a physical piece of real estate where you put, somewhere between 3% down or 20% down, and you can get a bank loan pretty easily and get a nice interest rate, and now you have this physical asset. Banks do not necessarily lend money to raw land just off the bat. It's because it's a higher risk. There is less collateral in terms of a physical asset, like a home, something that has a broader market, much more resale opportunity. Land is very specific to the person who's interested in it, unless it is, in Manhattan, for example. And so that's something that you'll have to face is, how can I get financing for raw land? And the way you do this is you actually need more cash. You need a lot more cash. When I was financing our property, we were expected to put as much as 50% down. And not many people have the means to just throw that much money into a place that they can't even live. There's also higher interest rates. So the banks are going to want a higher interest rate for lending you money to get into that land in the first place. You also have to look at the taxes. So there's going to be taxes on the land, regardless if you're living on it. You're just going to be paying for that property. There's likely going to be other fees associated with it. Maintenance, getting certain surveys done, potentially an HOA. So there's all these expenses and cash flow just going out into the property, but it's not so much returning cash flow back to you. And that is the number one reason that investing in physical land may not be a good choice for you, is that it's a non-cash flowing asset. So when you think of anywhere you could put your money, there's a lot of other places like the stock market and index funds, and even just real estate, and traditional real estate like an apartment or a single family home that has a higher chance of returning and appreciating money than physical land would. Okay, so then why did I buy 10 acres? Well, so a couple of reasons. So this allowed me to do two things. I wanted to secure some property for my family because we want to develop it, build a dream home one day, move my parents onto the property, move my wife's parents. We want to have cows and chickens and the whole that whole lifestyle. So to me, that is way more attractive than some returns on an index fund, and that's the reason I did it. I also believe that where I bought this property has a significant opportunity for a lot of appreciation and upside. There's huge housing developments. There's very limited inventory of the available 10-acre or 5-acre plots left. And so I believe over time, the value of this land is going to really, really skyrocket. So is this costing me a lot of money? Well, actually, I was able to start to monetize the property pretty quickly. And what I did is I was able to rent out space where local farmers and different people can park their equipment and their trailers on our property while we're not using it to its full capacity. So I'm already charging people rent, earning some income. I have lease agreements with these people, and I'm going to try to continue to scale that to where hopefully I can generate income from the property itself enough to cover all of the expenses while I pay down this loan and I continue to focus on building our home in the future. We also applied to get an agriculture exemption. So we are going to have some cows and some other animals on the property. We're going to start to grow some crops. And so that's going to bring the tax bill down just dramatically. I want to say like by 50+%. So in that example, that would be a case where if it's not going to be you choosing index funds and retirement funding versus buying some land, then this is probably something you could consider. But again, I'll do more videos on this topic because there's a lot of nuances that I navigated and things that can really put you upside down in a bad place if the land that you're considering is not the right location. Okay, so to recap, Bill Gates, he's super rich. He can buy all this farmland, no problem. Can you buy it? Well, you should probably do a few things that we talked about. You should work to get debt free. You should be focusing on funding retirement and maxing out your contributions in those investment areas. And then you should know that you should have enough cash to consider such an investment in raw land after doing your due diligence on the taxes, the fees, any HOA, location. There's some other things that you need to consider. And if all of that sounds too much, but you still want to invest in raw land, there are things like ETFs that have exposure to these sectors. There's some REITs, those are real estate investment trusts that you could consider. And that's something we'll talk about more in the future. All right, for now, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about the whole farm raw land purchasing process, leave me a comment. I will be glad to answer any questions you have. And we will do more videos like this soon, right here next week. Talk to you then.